astronauts Roger Chaffee, Edward White, and Gus Grissom lose their lives in a tragic flash fire aboard their grounded space capsule. The tragedy occurred during a simulated countdown for the first flight of the Apollo program, whose goal is to put a man on the moon by 1970. Grissom and White were veterans of spaceflight, Chaffee a rookie. During a drill similar to this, the entire three-man crew was engulfed by flames. A blue ribbon panel of space experts is investigating, aided by impounded NASA films and tape recordings. Grissom was one of the 7 original astronauts. White was America's first spacewalker. Chaffee, never in space, had long experience as a jet test pilot. He was proud and happy that his first flight was to initiate the Apollo program. When the tragedy struck, one of the astronauts shouted, "Fire in the spacecraft!" In a few seconds, all 3 were victims of the swift inferno which left the capsule a blackened shell. One reporter said it looked like the inside of a furnace. Investigators theorize that perhaps a short circuit or electrical overload may have sparked the blaze. 27 would-be rescuers were all overcome by smoke and heat. Apollo astronauts Chaffee, White, and Grissom, martyred heroes who gave their lives in total dedication to duty. Their memory will forever be honored. Six Yugoslav diplomatic missions throughout the United States and Canada are damaged in a series of mysterious bomb blasts, all occurring within 1 hour of each other. In Washington, the Yugoslav embassy suffered heavy damage. Here, the bomb was placed in a shallow hole outside the furnace room. No one was injured, although a 6-year-old boy was thrown from his bed in the pre-dawn explosion. Ceiling tiles were broken, windows shattered, and a large hole blown out of the foundation wall. Meanwhile, in New York, the Yugoslav consulate general off 5th Avenue is rocked by an explosion heard 4 blocks away. One fireman sent to the scene died of a heart attack. The State Department condemns the bombings as outrageous and senseless. Anti-Tito political terrorists are blamed for the attack. In the magnificent Sistine Chapel at Vatican City, Pope Paul presides at the ordination ceremonies for 16 men about to become priests. Usually, bishops confer the sacrament. Pope Paul recently revived the practice of papal ordinations, and this is only the second in recent centuries. These candidates are unusually advanced in age, from 33 to 62, and are graduates of a college specializing in the education of older men for the priesthood. The ceremonial tying of hands is part of these solemn moments, the climax to years of prayer and study. Following in the footsteps of the first pope, Peter the fisherman, are these 16 new fishers of men. The possibility of life after death is explored in Phoenix, Arizona by the Cryonic Society. They believe that cryobiology, the freezing of biological matter, is the answer. They propose freezing bodies in cold storage capsules. Scientists are mostly skeptical. A model demonstrates how one person, a California man who died of cancer, has already been frozen. A freezing liquid replaces the blood supply, and the subject is wrapped in aluminum foil and placed in a capsule at 220 degrees below 0 centigrade. One of the weapons that's putting plenty of punch in the Allied push in Vietnam is the Aircat. It's capable of skimming the surface of marshland in search of Viet Cong. Driven by a conventional airplane propeller, the fiberglass boat can hit 35 miles an hour. As little as 4 inches of water is all that's necessary for the Aircat, which provides flank protection and reconnaissance patrols while operating with assault boats. Each carries a 6-man crew and a full cargo of trouble for any Viet Cong in the way. You're looking at the world's first floating nuclear power station, a converted World War II Liberty ship, the Sturgis. She carries a 10 million watt power plant, which could supply the electrical needs for a city of 20,000 persons. Its use, military operations and disaster areas. The reactor core contains the entire fuel supply for a full year. Both the reactor and a steam generator are contained inside a gigantic steel housing. Concrete, lead, and other shielding are used to protect the crew. At her Fort Belvoir, Virginia base, the Sturgis goes through the final checkout phase. In future use, the power will be transmitted to land by cables from the plant's superstructure on the ship's bow. A 35-man crew will be aboard to operate and maintain the nuclear system. The Sturgis, forerunner of many such atomic power plants of the future. The windy city of Chicago is white as well as windy, battered by a furious winter storm which dumped 2 feet of snow across the Midwest. 68 deaths were traced to the blizzard. 10-foot drifts were a common sight after the 29-hour snowfall which brought this giant city to a standstill. Some 10,000 cars, buses, and trucks were abandoned on the streets and highways. Train and airline operations were halted, some for several days. There was widespread looting and many fires broke out. Helicopters flew emergency missions with food, drugs, and blood supplies. Milk, bread, fuel, and mail deliveries were all stopped by the snowstorm, described as one of the biggest and worst of the century. It reduced Chicago to a toddling town, indeed.